So again, everybody, thank you for joining. Um, my name is Cesar Rivas, and I will be facilitating today's training. So welcome to our monthly merchant training for Sound POS, powered, of course, by Sound Payments. I am the sales executive for Sound POS, so I wouldn't consider myself an expert, but definitely have had a lot of exposure to the system. All right. Um, So want to start off first by going over a couple of housekeeping items here. Okay. Um, First of all, the purpose of this session is really to learn how to utilize the unit more than configuring it. But I will be going over some of the configuration to some extent, at least provide you with some instructions. All right. So please feel free to write your questions in the chat section. And I am going to be looking at it. So make sure I'm responding, and I will wait until the end of the session. You may actually get a response to your question throughout the training. We're going to break probably on the hour for about 5 minutes. This is our second monthly session. I was expecting it to last a lot longer last month. It didn't. It lasted only a little bit over an hour and a half, maybe about an hour, 45 minutes. Because of some issues with the sign up, we didn't have a lot of participants. We may have more participants today. So again, I've blocked out a whole 3 hours. I want to make sure that I am able to respond to all your questions, and that I am very thorough in terms of the contents. We will be recording this session, and just as we post many other videos on our Sound Payments YouTube channel, you should be able to find this session on there, as well as last month's. And as I said before, the idea is that we are going to be covering the operation of Sound POS, not so much to configure it, but I will be able to help out in terms of some configuration. I want to share with you guys, we do have, of course, tech support available 24/7. So in case you have any questions, any issues, please look at the number that's on the screen, jot it down, 888-263-5661. We also have an email address that's available for your convenience. So if, again, you have any questions and maybe you don't have a phone at hand, or maybe it's something that's not that pressing, but you want to have it in writing, just email us at support@soundpayments.com. And of course, I believe everybody on the guide is going to get a Sound POS user guide in case you don't have it. We also do offer individual training. So you can actually talk to your reseller, your processor, to schedule that for you. It does come at a cost, so it needs to go through them in order for the scheduling. But these monthly trainings are going to be on the second Wednesday of every month. I've got the dates on the screen. We did it last month on Valentine's Day, today's date, and you can see the rest for the remainder of the year. Always at 1 p.m. Eastern, which is 10 p.m. Pacific. Hopefully that's going to work out for everybody. But again, you've got the sessions on our YouTube channel, Sound Payments, and then you always have access to the individualized training. All right, so what I'm going to be going over today is first and foremost your system components. How the terminals are configured. Of course your initial configuration, and I'll go in detail over that. I'm going to talk about discounts and pricing as well. Okay. Your customers function, where you're able to store the customer data, but also a couple of functions that are built into that. Your employee management, keep in mind that the system does allow you to restrict access to functionalities on the POS at a very detailed level. So you may have somebody who only can do the sales functions but can't do any inventory functions. I'll be covering also the reports. You've got a range of reports that are on the terminal, and then you have additional reports that are on the back end on our web portal, Seamless Commerce. I'm going to be discussing inventory, things like how to add products, how to move your inventory, how to modify the quantities. I'm going to be discussing printers. Even though the terminals do come with built-in printers, we do have the option to add some network printers. And then, of course, I'll be going through the screens, the actual sales screen, so you can see, in real time, some of the functionalities on the sales screen. Okay. All right. So Couple of housekeeping items. As I said at the beginning, please remember to, sorry, this is actually going back. All right. All right. Oh, so I actually repeated that slide. All right. So we're not on the break right now. So we're going to start off with the terminal part. Okay. You've got different kinds of terminals. You've got your, of course, your countertop terminals. You've got your handheld terminal as well. Whichever one you may have, just be aware that the terminal basically is made up of two sections for your countertop. You've got your screen where the operator is gonna ring up an order and so forth, and then you have the payment terminal, which is attached to the back of your terminal. If you're in the need of a different type of setup where maybe your payment terminal or pin pad needs to be detached because you've got a barrier, I know that after COVID, a lot of places maintain that physical barrier. The countertop terminals do work with also detached pin pads, so make sure you speak again with your reseller or your processor if you need to change the setup to have a detached terminal from the device. All right. Um, you can get additional hardware, of course. You can get your your scanner. You can get a cash drawer. These terminals have the ports to be able to support that. Okay, and then the other part of the component, so to speak, would be what would be the back end, right? Your web portal. So I'm going to log into the reseller web portal, and I'm just going to bring up a store that we're going to be working with today. It's called the Micromart. These are all um, demo stores, so they're not live. Okay, so this is what's considered the back end or web portal, and you should have access to something like this similar, so you can do some of the functionalities from the terminal right here, especially as far as setting things up and looking at reports, and we'll go a little bit more into detail about that. All right. So initial configuration. First and foremost, you should have your taxes set up. Now, there are two places where you can set up your taxes. You can set up your taxes right here on the web portal. You go to configuration, go to tax, or you can set up your taxes on the terminal itself. And unfortunately, just for security reasons, PAX is going to kick me off here probably several times during the presentation today. So I'm going to go ahead and log into this terminal so you can see the screen, and I can show you where you can view your taxes on the terminal itself, where you can work on the taxes on the terminal itself. Let me go ahead and accept the connection on the terminal. Give me 1 second while it comes up here. All right, come on out. Now I've got a good internet connection here. Usually pretty speedy. And I'm going to zoom in just a little bit so you can see it better. It's going to appear blurry, but trust me, it's not. You have the terminals yourself. You know that's not because of the screen, but it's rather because of the software that we utilize in order to be able to do the casting on the computers. All right, so if you're looking at setting up your taxes on the terminal itself, you're going to go to the inventory section, and you'll have your taxes and your tax categories here. But we're going to use the web portal, right? Because I feel it's a little bit easier to do it on there. So two things or two components from the taxes. You got the tax rates and the tax categories. The tax rate is where you're going to define different types of taxes. So in this case, I only have the local tax. Let's go ahead and change this to a state tax. You can actually change the label on there, state tax. Okay, and we're going to put a rate on here. We're at 1.25. Okay, we'll save that. Okay, and once you've set up the different tax rates, you can have rates for cigarette taxes, for alcohol taxes, luxury, whatever that may be. Then you're going to group those into the tax category. Okay. Now, again, in this case, I only have one tax category, okay, which is a tax standard. I just added the secondary one, so I'm going to go ahead and put it on here. And you can even change the rates right on the screen. You can select whether you want to tax on the previous tax. You can change the order in which things are taxed and so forth. And of course, you establish which is your default tax category you're going to be utilizing. Okay, so that's the first thing you should do. You should set up your taxes to make sure that whatever products you're selling, that they are going to have the tax is included. You can do tax exempt as well. You'll be able to do it at the product level and also be able to do it at the moment of sale. All right. So that's the first thing that you want to do. Second thing is create your user roles. Okay. So when we go here, okay, actually on the POS, employee maintenance, and you've got your employee roles. You can do it again here, or you can go to the terminal. Okay. You go to maintenance on the terminal. You can do your roles here as well. Okay, so it looks a little different. For this store, I've got all of these roles created. On the terminal, you've got two tabs. These are all your sales related functions. And then if you go to authority, you have more on the back end. Like you can choose what reports specific employee or specific profile can utilize. You go to admin, you have things like inventory functions that you can add, maintenance and things like that. And it's kind of the same thing on the web portal. We go and look at the administrator role. This is where you've got all your sales functions under the register, right? And then you've got some admin stuff here, what authority level you want to give them. Okay. So once you create your role, then you're going to go ahead and create a user or your employees. Okay. You go to users here. These are all the list of users that I have. And again, if you look at the web portal here, you go to users, and it kind of resembles what you've got on the web on the back end. As far as preference, where you would create the roles or where you would add the employees, to me it's the same. Normally I do it on the terminal. It's a little bit more straightforward. You don't have to be switching back and forth. One thing though I want to point out is in terms of the date of birth, the reason why it requires it in this case is because we're doing a demo on a convenience store, and I do have some age restricted products. So once you have age restricted products, of course, the sales clerk also needs to comply with that. So it does require you to add their age. If you don't have any age restricted products for the store, then it won't require you to enter the date of birth. Okay. Once you create the employee, then you save it. And on the terminals, you can even take a picture and add a picture to the employee. And the system does allow you to log in using a barcode. And you have access to the barcode on the web portal. You have this button here on the top right where it says generate and download the POS user barcode. It creates a PDF file, which then you can print out on a sticker or label, and then put it on an employee badge. Okay. So it's kind of the same thing. And then, of course, you have an additional functionality on the web portal, which is to manage your time cards, where you can export your time cards. So you can then use a payroll processing software. Usually is compatible with any Excel file. And you even have the time card details here. Now, I don't have a lot of details because I don't really use this function much when I'm doing the demo. I think for the front counter stuff, I may have clocked in. Yeah, here you go. So you can actually shows you on here, when they clocked in, when they clocked out, and so forth. All right. Okay. Another important configuration component is your receipts. Okay. And again, you have the option to configure your receipt right on the back end. Okay. If you go to POS configuration under the POS, and we go to receipt configuration here. Okay. You edit. You have all of these different things you can do. Now, you can also do it on the terminal. Oh, shoot. Like I said, it's going to probably kick me out a couple of times doing the presentation. Let me just log back in real quick so you can see it on the terminal. Now, I normally use the back end simply because it's easier to upload a logo. You can actually put a logo on your receipt, and I'll show you the receipt in a minute. Okay, let me zoom back in here. All right, so for the receipt configuration on the terminal, from the main screen, you would go to settings. Okay, and then you've got your, oh, sorry, I actually tapped on the wrong one by mistake. You go to settings, and then you have receipt setup right here. Okay, but like I said, to me, it's a lot easier to do it on the back end because of uploading that logo. All right, so you can upload your logo right here. You can upload a color one. It's still going to print black and white because the printer on the actual device is going to print black and white. But normally I recommend just uploading the black and white one. It's less resolution, and it does have a limit in terms of the resolution. Then you can add your headers. You can add as many headers as you want and choose where you want it. If you want it, centered, if you want it left or right, and then add as many footers as you want. Same thing, centered, so forth. Keep in mind, our POS has support for 4 different languages. You can change that whenever you're going to log in: Spanish, English, of course, Mandarin Chinese, and Portuguese. But it does support other characters if like for product names or even for labels. So if you want to put something here, maybe in Hebrew, it does support that as well for the receipt. Okay. You can put your address at the footer, and then you can choose what components you want to see on the receipt. You want it to print with a barcode. Do you want the ability to send an email or not? Our system does allow you to send email. You can't text a receipt, but it does allow you to send an email, and it actually sends a PDF file, not a link. Also, the tip line. The system does have the actual payment terminals. The screens are touch sensitive, so you can actually have the tip option on the screen, and this way it'll actually print out on the receipt. Or you can have it where the customer enters a tip, and then you'll be able to adjust it at the end of the day. All right. Once you activate on the system signature capture, it'll automatically delete the signature need for the receipt. Okay. And you can preview the receipt by clicking on here, or if you don't log in, click on here to preview. You can actually just view it right on here. Okay. So this is what the receipt would look like as far as a preview. All right. Okay. Another, configuration would be, of course, your products. Now, you can add products on the terminal, okay? Or you can add products on the back end. So your products would be listed here under catalog. There's a couple of ways that you can do it, okay? And we're going to go into that briefly here, okay? If you go to Sound Payments, you would do it under Inventory, okay? If you go to the actual terminal. But on here, on the store portal, I find it to be a lot easier, okay? Why? Because, well, first of all, it's a computer, so the keyboard that you have may be easier to use. You've got your mouse and so forth. All right, so you can add a product right here. And let's go ahead and add a product for the class. All right, so you put whatever name you want on there. It doesn't allow you to input repeated products. It has to be a unique name. Okay, class 2 product. This is our second monthly class. Okay. It's always going to default to your store, unless you've got multiple stores, and you can drop down and choose a different store here, especially if you have a structure where you can have a parent store and a child store. It'll actually allow you to choose a product for a specific store. You can use a short name. Doesn't really, it's just more than anything for your identification. Okay, and then, of course, choose what category it's going to be under. And we'll go over categories in a minute. But we strongly recommend you utilize categories, especially if you don't have if you're not going to use a barcode in a scanner, because it's going to be easier to navigate and find the products on the menu. All right. So in this case, let's go ahead and add this to the gift shop. Well, let's add it to beverages, since I actually have beverages at the top of the menu. You can put a description of the product on here, or whatever you like. And then, of course, you can choose a display order. If you default or you leave it blank, there's a place where you can change how you want to choose the display order for products and for categories. And I'll show you that in a minute. It's actually on the terminal. If you go to, cancel so it doesn't kick me out. If you go to settings and you go to configuration, you're going to see, as you scroll down a little bit, it tells you your product and your category sorting rules. So you can display order, by whatever you chose, or you can choose maybe by creation time or by name. All right, so 3 options in which you can choose how you want to sort your products and your categories as well. Okay. All right, once you choose a category, if you have a scanner, usually a USB held scanner, normally you can connect it to your computer. and you'll be able to scan the barcode and it'll translate it to a code. All right. You have a secondary field where you can actually also add a some sort of a code that the system will be able to read. Okay. The system allows you to sell by weight. And honestly, once you activate this, you can place any unit you'd like over here. It doesn't have to be a weight unit. It can be inches, cups, whatever you like. It doesn't differentiate. And it doesn't allow you to sell fractional numbers. So, if it's by pound and somebody buys a quarter pound, you can actually put 0.25, and it's going to keep track of that as well. Now, this function for POS enabled is simply if you want an item that maybe you ran out of stock, you don't want to delete it from your inventory, but you want to make sure that it's not on the POS, you can disable this. And then show on POS menu is for things like modifiers like ingredients. So for example, maybe you have ketchup as an ingredient for your hot dog. You want it to be enabled so that you can choose that as an option, but you don't want it to show on the menu where you're going to ring something up. So you would still leave this enabled and then disable so it doesn't show up on the menu. And then the last option here on the general information is whether the item is accepted for EBT payment or not. So you got to make sure that once you activate that, that it is in compliance. You don't want to put EBT acceptance for cigarettes or alcohol or anything that's restricted. Then the next section you have on here has to do with pricing. So the price that you charge. Now, mind you, if you have activated your cash discounting, you get to choose which price you're going to input. Okay. Normally, we recommend you input the cash price so that the system will do the calculation automatically for the higher price, for the credit card price. Okay. So we put on here $1.99, and then you choose what tax category you're going to use, and it'll do the calculation right on the spot. You can choose an item to be tax exempt. I mentioned this earlier. And then you can put on here what it costs you. So let's say that it cost me 50 cents. Okay. The system will then calculate what your profit is and what your gross margin would be. Okay. Then the next section would be, how do you want to track your inventory? So a couple of ways you can track inventory. You can not track inventory, of course. You can track inventory by the item. And if that's the case, then you get to input your initial stock quantity here. And you can set your threshold when you want to be alerted that you're running low. There's a report that I'll show you later on that automatically will show you that. Okay. So in this case, we'll set it to 5. That's one way to track inventory. Another way to track inventory is through product attributes. What are product attributes? These are unique modifiers such as a size or a color. Okay. And these are found if you go to, once you save and continue, okay, you'll see an extra tab here called product attributes. That's where you would add the attribute. You don't have to keep track of inventory through the attributes, but if you wanted to, this is where you would do it. Okay. You add whatever attribute you want, and you have to create the attribute beforehand. Okay. Let's say it's shirt color. Okay. And you say, hey, this is a required. You have to choose one or the other. Save and continue. And then you're going to add the values, right? So let's say blue. Okay, you save blue. And let's say we add a second value for red. And then you save red. Okay. And you save everything over again and you close it. And then you're going to create the combinations because you can add more than one attribute, meaning you can have size and color, for example. And then you would create what's known as an attribute matrix. So let's say that I just did color. But let's go ahead and also add size. Okay. I think I have an attribute as shirt size. Yeah, Reebok shirt size. I'm using an attribute that already exists on the system. And this is also required. Okay. So I add the value and I say small. Okay. And we save that one. And then we add another value and we say medium. And again, you could do it with a single attribute or multiple attributes where you'd have the matrix. All right, so now you go ahead and you're going to make the combinations now, okay? So in this case, I want the blue shirt small, and I'm going to have 20 of these items on hand, okay? And I want to make sure that the minimum amount is 5 again, so I'm alerted. So you save and close that one, and then you create a second attribute or a second combination. This is going to be blue again, and medium. And again, I say its stock quantity is going to be 23, and still the same number for minimum, and so forth, right? So then when you pull up the item, you're actually keeping track of inventory. It'll add up all of the quantities here. It's actually going to keep track of the inventory based on whichever item you choose, what color and size. And again, you can do it for a single item, you can do it for 2, 3, 4, but they have to be unique items, meaning that the shirt's only going to be one color and a one size. Okay, you can do this for flavors, and this can even be utilized as a secondary level. So you've got your main category. We've seen a very good use of this for vape stores, for smoke shops, because you may have, a certain brand of vapes that has 20 different flavors. So you may not want to create 20 different products for that. You just create that vape brand, and then you use the attributes as the flavors as your attributes, and choose the stock quantity. You can even have a different barcode for each one. Okay, that's a very good feature. All right, so going back here, you can finish filling everything out. We're only going to track inventory by the item itself. Now, if it's a modifier, and a modifier would be an ingredient or something that you can choose multiple of these items. Okay, this is where you would also create it. So I could have created a modifier called ketchup, and then I just enable it here. Now, if you just want to add a modifier to an item, of course, you have to create it beforehand. You can choose a modifier from the list here, but we made it even easier where you can group your modifiers. So in the case of this convenience store, we have hot dogs, we have ice cream. So I created different modifier groups for hot dogs and ice cream. And you can even keep track of inventory based on the modifier. So for example, sausage and bun count. The hot dog doesn't come packaged together, right? So I created a modifier for sausage and bun, and I put them together, and that's where I keep track of the item. Okay, and these are the other modifier groups that are created for the hot dog and the ice cream. And then finally on this screen, if you're going to add additional printers, this is where you would assign it to the individual product. So you may have products that go to the kitchen and products that don't. Okay, if you don't choose any printer, it'll automatically use the built-in printer. But you can make a distinction if you want as well. And then finally, whether the item is a restricted age item or not. Now, you can establish a global restricted age for the store. Okay, so both for the employee and the customer, but then you can modify it at the individual product level. Okay, you can choose 18 or even do something more customized like 16 and over. In this case, we're not going to make it a restricted age product. And then the last thing I want to show you within the product setup here is you can actually upload a picture. Again, just watch the resolution of the picture. If it's a very big picture, very large file, you're going to get an error message. It'll tell you that you need to reduce the resolution of it. It's very easy. Click on Add Picture, and then you can browse where the picture will be located. Okay, you choose Upload, and it'll bring up your images. Okay. Oh, sorry. All right. So once you're done with that, you save and close, and you'll have the item on there. Okay. So Class 2 product will be right on the top. Now, there's other ways that you can add your products. Okay. So we have a function now that allows you to do mapping. Okay. You can choose that, and then you can choose a file from whatever other POS or software you're using, or you can use a template. Okay, and we have two types of templates. We have a simple template and a complex. And the difference basically is the simple template just has the product. The complex template will include attributes and attribute combinations. So just to show you what that looks like, I'm going to pull up a sample template with some sample data. This is for a quick serve Asian restaurant. Okay, let me bring it over to your screen here. Okay, maximize it and zoom out a little bit so you can see the full screen. So kind of has the same feel that you saw within the product, right? Your name, your short description, SKUs, right? If you have a GTIN, the price, the cost, okay, your categories, you know, if you're using tax, what tax category you're using, is it tax exempt? So kind of the same fields that you saw in the other one. So you are able to manually input this. Now, if you have attributes, what I recommend is create one product with your attributes and then copy whatever format you're doing to input this. Because it can be, if you're not familiar with it, it can be a little bit more complicated, more complex. So what I would recommend if you are going to use attributes like for tracking inventory and things like that, make sure that you're going to that you create one on the system and then just export that. Okay. All right. So once you ready to export, you just choose the file and you import. A couple of things you need to do beforehand though. Okay. And first thing is if you have modifiers, you want to first import the modifiers, and then you're going to need to import the modifier groups. There's a template for that as well. Okay, you can export. All right. Once you do that, if you have categories, you also want to import your categories first. Okay. You also have a template for that. All right. And then if you have product attributes, you also want to do that. Okay. You want to go ahead and create your product attributes, and you can import again in case if you have a lot of attributes. Okay. Once you do that, then you can go back to products and import your products file. Otherwise, what happens is if you try to import a products file where your category is not registered on the system or your modifiers aren't registered on the system, you're going to get an error message saying, hey, the category not valid, because it's not going to find it on the system. So those are the steps. If you got modifiers, you import your modifiers first, then you import your modifier groups, then you import your categories and your product attributes, and then you can go ahead and import your products. Okay. I want to show you under categories real quick. When you create a category, okay, a couple of things you want to be aware of. Okay. Of course, you input your category name, but also you can choose whether the category is going to be displayed on the main menu or not. Why? Because if you create a category, for example, for your pay in or pay out, you don't want it to be on the sales menu. This is something for backend, right? So like lotteries, for example, is used to pay in, pay out. The lottery, unless you're selling the lottery on the POS, you wouldn't have it as a category. And you can create as many categories as you want. The second thing is that for the manual entry on the sales screen, if you want to input a product onto the sales cart without actually adding it to inventory, maybe you received a shipment of something and you're not ready to add an inventory, but you want to make sure that you are able to identify what categories on there, then you would also need to enable this feature here, used for entry. Now, the nice thing about this feature is that you can even create a category that's specifically for manual entry, like not in inventory yet, and that's going to come up on the reports. Okay, so we're not going to create any new categories. We also created categories for refunds. So if you have somebody, for example, whose item is broken, then you'll be able to identify when somebody does a refund or requests a refund, the reason for that, and you're going to be able to kind of keep track of that as well. The nice thing also about doing refunds or returns on our system is that the system will ask you whether you want to add it back to inventory or not. So if it's a broken item, it doesn't add it back to inventory. But if it's something that maybe somebody just didn't like and you're going to put it back on the sales on the shelves, then you can go ahead and tell the system to add it back to inventory. Okay, that's with regards to the actual product catalog. Now, the next item I want to cover is your additional printers and how do you configure your additional printers. Okay, you go to POS configuration, and again, you can do it on the back end. Kick me out already. Let me go ahead and show you where you can do it. Now, you can use any printer, any additional printer, as long as it utilizes Epson printing protocols. The point here is that it's a network printer, which means it's not attached to the actual terminal. It should be attached to whatever network device you have, like a router, okay? And what I recommend is when you install the printer on the network, that you utilize a computer to test it, okay? Your printer setup is, again, under Settings, You can go to printer setup here. Okay. Now it's pretty easy. You choose what transactions you want on there, whether you're going to open the cash drawer after you put it on there. But you should be using the IP address for the printer. Okay, and if you're not familiar with that, it's kind of the identifier of on the network so that it knows where it's going to direct any type of a command. One thing also, I don't know how familiar you may be with networking. You want to make sure that your IP address on your network for that printer is static, not dynamic. That means that if your power goes out or you reboot your router, that it's not going to change the IP address for that printer, but it remains the same. So this way, you don't have to go back in and reestablish the printer. Okay. You're going to use this as the usual port you utilize for the external printers. Okay. And then just default for the commands, you can leave that. All right. But once you set up your printer, you can actually ping to make sure that it's communicating, and then you can actually do a connect test. Okay. We have an advanced printer function as well, where you get to choose where you want something to print. So that's why if you got additional printers, these are some functions that you can activate it so they work. On the back end, if you go to printer here, printer settings, then it tells you, how you want to do a label printer, a network printer. It's kind of the same process. Okay. It doesn't allow you to test it on here, obviously, because you want to test it from the terminal, but it allows you to pretty much choose everything else that you saw in the other settings. All right. All right, let's talk a little bit about payment methods. A couple of things here. Okay. And we're going to go to configuration on the back end. Okay. And settings. All right, for store settings, and I'm going to bring up a couple of things here on their payment methods. Okay. First one is, yes, if you're going to use EBT and check, you need to enable it here on their payment on the back end. Okay. Once you do that, then you can go to the actual payment methods to activate or enable these payment methods on the back end. Okay, you go to payment method here. You choose which payment method you want to enable. So, for example, you want to enable your credit card. You tap on here. Okay, and just put a check mark which says active and then save and close. For things like a debit card, if you are using cash discounting, you can choose whether it supports it or not. Okay. All right. And then any other item that you want to do, for example, maybe you want to use account credit. The system allows you to provide credit to your clients. This is where you would enable it. Or if you want to use loyalty, this is where you would enable it as well. And with regards to loyalty, just want to show you something on the back end. Okay. We go to settings here, store settings. All right. With regards to loyalty, you enable it here, and then you get to choose the ratio between how many points are generated by a purchase and how many points are required for a purchase. So this is a 10-to-1. So your points are worth just a tenth of whatever you earn. But you can change that to whatever you like. Okay. The other thing is that I mentioned the store-wide age verification. So this is where you can establish those ages to be default. Okay. Now on the terminal itself, okay, we're still under settings. You go to pay method. If you've activated your cash discounting, you got to make sure that it's active on here. But you can actually, and then you choose which is your product price. Cash as the default or your credit as a default. Okay. And then you can actually choose on here what items are going to be active and what is not going to be active. You can even create additional payment methods. Okay, so we go back here, we go back to the payment methods. Now, of course, you're not going to be able to process Venmo through the system, but you create the payment method here, okay, and then you enable it on the terminal itself. So you're going to still have to process Venmo on a smartphone or you use, but then when you ring it up, you can choose that as your form of payment, okay, and it's going to keep track of how what form of payment you utilized. All right. With regards to gift cards, and that's the next point I wanted to bring up here. Our system does work with in-house gift cards, so you can create your own gift card and then have them printed out by a gift card provider. and it does work with certain vendor-based gift cards. Now, the difference between one and the other is going to be, well, if you use in-house gift cards, the only cost you'll have is printing of the actual gift card, or you can do a paper certificate, and so it's even less expensive. But there's a limitation that it's only going to work on their Sound POS. If you use vendor-based gift cards, then you'll have a cost, a higher cost, obviously, for those gift cards. They'll charge you for that service, but if you'll be able to use them pretty much with any POS. Okay. All right, pay in and pay out. This is where you've got your list of items on here, but on the terminal, I just want to show you real quick. I mentioned that you got pay in and pay out. You can set up categories. Okay, I've set up categories for lotteries just so you can identify. But you can set up any category on there as well. Okay, so if you want to have a category for maybe cash, when you set up for the day for cash, the system is not going to tell you, 520s and 310s and so forth. But you'll be able to actually say, okay, had $135 cash in, and then at the end of the day, how much cash do I have? I've got 357, and you can choose that as a category for PM. Okay. All right, and the last thing is the cloud synchronization. So again, the system is based on the cloud. You've got your back end here, right? That where you can make changes, and then they'll take effect on the terminal. If you go to settings, two things I want to mention about that. Okay, you go to cloud. So the system is going to sync immediately whenever you run a sale. The reason for that, of course, is to make sure that it's updating your inventory. So if you've got multiple terminals, the other terminal will be aware of what was sold. Or if you don't run the sale, but you save the transaction, then you'll be able to pull it up in another terminal immediately. Okay. But other changes that are more, let's say, just larger changes like inventory pricing and things like that, it's going to sync. You can choose how often you want that to sync. Okay, and if you're on a metered internet connection, of course, that may matter because it's more data that's going to be exchanged. Or you want to, not sync, you can choose that here as well. And then also, you wanted to tell you how often it's synced. It'll give you an alert here on the right hand side when it's not synced on the main screen, or if it is syncing, it'll tell you that it has been syncing. But you can choose how often you want it to do that, that check. Okay. And then, of course, you've got your list of items here, when it was synced last and so forth. Okay. This is going to reset every time you log out. It's going to be erased every time you log out. If you need to sync manually, because you made a change maybe on the back end, you can actually activate the sync button here. And it'll tell you whether it's successful synchronizing or not. If it wasn't successful synchronizing, then you'll be able to look at the data by pressing the sync failure data button. Okay, we really haven't had any sync. There's no data to synchronize, right? We haven't had any failure. But if you make any changes on here, then of course you got to save those changes for them to take effect. All right, so that's really with regards to your initial configuration. Okay, just an overall view of that. All right, next thing I want to go around is has to do with discounting and pricing. Okay, you've set your prices on the system, and this is more now on the terminal itself. But maybe you want to modify your pricing for your inventory or a specific category or specific. Go to maintenance, and we have this function called global price change. And global price change allows you to modify your pricing at 3 different levels. You can do it for your whole inventory. You can do it for a specific category, okay, where you tap on here and it'll give you the list of categories. Or you can do it for a specific item, okay, where you add on here, you'll choose a category if the item is in a specific category, okay? Or if it's a SKU, you can just scan it right here and find the item, okay? And then you would, whatever, change the pricing in whichever way. So you have 3 ways then in which you can adjust the price once you've chosen what level you want to change. You can adjust the price by the dollar amount, meaning setting the specific item to specific dollar amount, not increasing it or by a specific dollar amount. And what I mean by that is, for example, maybe on a at a dollar store, because inflation has been so high this year, instead of $1, and I think I saw that already, all the items are going to go up to $1.15. Then that's where you would set the price there. Or you can increase it by percentage or decrease it by percentage. The second option for pricing would be adjusting the profit or the gross margin. Okay. All right. And then the third one would be your round price. And you can run your prices up or down to 0.95, 0.9900. All right. And then all your prices are going to end with that suffix. All right. All right. Another pricing item I want to mention is the way in which you conduct sales on the system. And that's the special pricing function. You have three ways in which you can conduct sales on the system. Your standard sale, which starts on a specific date and ends on a specific date, and it even gives you the time. And you can choose whether you're going to do a sales price or you're going to do a percentage off. And again, you have to choose the items that you're going to be running the sale on. Okay, that's one way. The second way would be what's known as bulk pricing. Now, bulk pricing is what's known as, your 2-for-1 or 3-for-1. So you can establish it that way as well. Now, heads up with this one. Right now, and we're in the process of giving you the option, but right now, once the customer reaches the threshold of the discount, all additional items will come at the same price, the same discounted price. So 2-for-1 basically means that when you buy 2 items, you get them at 50% off, right? If you buy 3, 4, 5, those are all going to come at 50% off. Now, as I said, we're constantly updating our POS system, and we're going to be updating it shortly so that you'll get to choose whether you want to reset the pricing or not. Okay. And you have the option, of course, to sell by price or percentage off. All right. And then the third option for discounting would be your time-based pricing. This is a regular weekly type of sale where it's going to continue to happen as long as you allow this to be on the system. If you want it to stop, you'd have to go in and then delete it. And a good example for this is in the case of the store that we're using, which is a convenience store and sells milk. If they receive their shipments on Fridays, for example, maybe they run a sale on milk every Thursday from noontime until closing. All right. So 3 ways in which you can conduct sales or impact pricing. One last item I want to bring up on here, which is called the price level. A price level is what you would consider to be a group discount. So, for example, special groups like veterans, first responders, teachers, whatever that may be. Now, for somebody to receive this price level, they need to be registered on the system as a customer. You can also register somebody at the time of ringing them up, and it only requires a first name. We, of course, encourage you to try to gather more data for your own purposes of maybe advertising and things like that. But if not, it's very easy. If somebody comes up to the cash register and says, hey, I'm a veteran, and you have a discount for veterans, you just input their first name, and you'll be able to activate the price level discount for them. And when you create a price level, and I do have a veterans price level here, there are different ways in which you can apply the discount. Not only can you choose the percentage off, right? But you can also choose whether you want it for all the products, for a specific category, or also a price range. So maybe you're only going to give a discount for up to $25. Anything beyond that, you don't give a discount, or vice versa. Okay, you can start at $25 and then make it up to $1,000, which would be unlimited if you have items that are less than $1,000. All right, so again, those are the items I wanted to bring up under here as far as discount and pricing. So let's talk about your customers and how you can manage your customers' data. Maybe kicked off here soon as well. Okay, let's see if it allows me to. Okay, great. It does have my customers listed on here. So a couple of things, right? Let's first of all look at the customer data, right? Because you can on here, if you see on here, you can add customers here. You can export your whole customer database. You can even import database in case you have customers on another POS and it allows you to export it. You can import your whole customer database on here. Okay. So when we click on add new, just want to show you kind of the fields you've got on here. Okay. You got your store, of course, your birthday, all their personal information on here, first name and all that stuff, right? But you can also do it on the terminal. You get out of maintenance and you just click on customers. You can add your customer here as well. Okay. Kind of has all the same data that you would see on the back end. Okay. Country and all that good stuff. All right. Now, a couple of things though that you do have on the back end that you're not going to see on here. If you remember, you got the price level here as well, right? But let's go to the back end, the terminal here. All right. In addition to all the data, and again, these terminals have built-in cameras, so you can actually take a picture to avoid maybe having an imposter or something like that come to the store. You go to the account tab. This is where you're going to find both credit and loyalty. Okay. I'm going to go into a different customer profile, somebody that I normally use when I do my demos on here. This testing guy. So if I go to the account tab for them, you see that I've given them $1,000 in credit. Okay. And you can see how much they actually have outstanding and what they've got available. They can pay it back any way you choose. You as the merchant can choose to have them pay back. Okay. And you can also look at their detailed history for the account. Okay. You can browse through here, see when they've made a repayment, see when they've actually charged something on here. Okay. And then you've got the loyalty information as well. So on the loyalty side, you can see when they've received points and when they've used points for purchases. Okay. I want to show you on here. You can even gift points if you wanted to. I did this like back in 2022. I gifted them. Yes, I gifted somebody 25,000 points at Just, and you would still do it on the store portal, right? You go to loyalty. All right. So let's see. Where's the testing guy here? Oh, here it is. You go to loyalty on here. You can adjust the value. Okay. You can add or deduct whatever you want. Okay. All right. So that I wanted to show you that with regards to the customers. Employee management. So I showed you before, time card, where you would find the time card, right? Go to the POS users, and this is where you're going to find that. And one thing I didn't mention, and I think this is important, is that you can require your employee to clock in when they log in. All right. And what I mean by that is, I'm going to get out of this profile. I'm going to clock in as somebody who runs the inventory, the cash. I'm going to log out here. And now I'm going to clock in as somebody who runs the cash register. I require this person to first clock in before they can log in. See, so I say clock in, it welcomes me. Now it allows me to actually run a sale. Okay, I'm going to log out of here. And I'm going to say, hey, I do want to be clocked out. Now, it doesn't require somebody to log out of the system for somebody else to clock in. Okay, I'm going to go back as the administrator. If I'm running a transaction here, okay, and somebody says, hey, I need to clock in, well, you can hold the order, right? You can go back here and say, okay, give me 1 second, put a time card, and that person can clock in. And again, if they have the barcode, they'll be able to scan the barcode, and you should be able to clock them in. So, for example, I can say, all right, let me go ahead and clock in my inventory guy here. Okay. Yes, I clocked in. Perfect. Now I can go back and continue running my save. Okay. So again, it's a feature that allows you, once again, to manage your employees' hours. All right. All right. So up next, I want to talk about reports. You got a series of reports that are on the terminal itself. Okay. You've got your the transaction details, the transaction report, okay, inventory details, and things like that. You can choose kind of a time frame to pull this up. You can choose the status. Is it been paid for? Is it pending? Employee by employee. Okay, you can even do by customer. Okay, so the last month, and when you do a query on a customer, any letters you use will be used for that customer. So, for example, if I say here, any customer with a T, okay, it'll bring up all the customers that have a T in their name, even if it's not the first letter. Okay, so you can see Bob Smith has a T, right? So I'm going to tell her, all right, I want to see all the transactions by this customer testing guy. So it'll pull up all the transactions within that time frame. Okay, and you've got, again, a whole series, a whole range of reports on here. Your batch report, for example, report. And then you can do a query, pull up all of your batch reports. Now I don't have any batch reports because I don't run that. But you can pull that up on here. Okay? Refund reason report. Now the bulk of your reports, I would say, though, are on the back. If you go to reports, you've got them here, and you've got some pre-established reports like your bestsellers report. Okay, and you can do a date range and say, all right, I haven't sold anything today, or I'm going to go back 2 months. What are my bestsellers here? Okay, got them right here. Low stock report, that's an automated one. So anything that's below that threshold you established will show up on here. You've got your products never purchased report. Okay, and again, you can do a date range. So we go to, the 13th of January and do a query on that. Okay, or you can even do it by category. And then, of course, any reports that you've emailed, you need to register the email address on the system, and then it's going to keep track of who you've emailed the reports to. Okay, this is for an optional feature that we have, which is tobacco reporting or scan data. If you're familiar with that, if you're a tobacco retailer, it allows you to offer discounts and rebates, loyalty program for tobacco consumers, and it's worked directly with the tobacco companies. All right, but the bulk of your reports are here under transactions. Now, transactions is really more of a dashboard, okay? This isn't the actual report you're going to be looking at, okay? And let's go back 2 months. This is more of a dashboard where you can refine what you want to see. If you want to see by category, if you want to see a payment method, of course, you have to choose a store, okay? It'll tell you all the categories for that store, payment methods, even a product, or by terminal if you've got multiple terminals on here. It'll show you all your transactions within that time frame. The nice thing about this is that you can actually go into a specific transaction here. Okay, see what happened here. Our system does support split tender, and I should say multiple tenders because it's not just two. Right, it supports as many as you want. It's got all your customers' information. The system also does support identifying whether a sale was done for takeout, for delivery. Even though we're not integrated to any delivery service, if you choose delivery, your receipt's actually going to print out the customer's address if you have it registered on the system. Nice thing about this page also is that if you want to see the receipt, you can reprint your receipt right from here. And as I said, when we email a receipt, it's actually a PDF file. So you can see it on here. We downloaded it, and then you can see the receipt for that transaction. And we do have signature capture on here, so we did have it. Oh, but I didn't do credit card, so I wouldn't do a signature capture for that transaction in particular. You can also see the specifics of that purchase, okay, on here, even modifiers and things like that, and then just payment information, okay? How was it paid? You have 3 different payment informations on here, right? Because I used the cash, I used the account, and I used loyalty. But again, this isn't really a report. This is just your dashboard. The reports are listed here on their export. And you have 2 versions. You have your detailed version and your total version. So for transactions, payments, categories, customer, employee, tax, and tips. And then we added a couple more reports for refund reasons and the entry category details, which is the manual entry one. All right. Let me just show you the difference between a detailed report versus a total report on the transactions. So a detailed report is going to show you everything that was done for every transaction, whether it generated revenue or not. So in this case, like hot fudge sundae with no whipped cream. See, it didn't generate anything on here, but it's still going to list it on here. Now, if you don't need a report with this much detail, then yeah, you want to see the totals report, which is just a single line entry per transaction. It doesn't describe the items that were purchased, but it does describe any payment information or discounting information and things like that. And then the nice thing about this is at the bottom, it'll show you your total sales. Okay. Now, if you need a report like this, that's not modifiable. If you need to email it to somebody, make sure they don't make any mistakes. You have all the same reports under the PDF format. Okay. They would be right here. And again, you can see your totals all the way at the bottom. It's a single transaction entry on these reports. Okay. All right. So with that, we covered reports. I've got 2 o'clock, which is on the hour. I promised you guys I would give you a 5-minute break so you can go stretch your legs, maybe get something to drink and so forth. So we're going to go ahead and break until 2:05 Eastern time. And at that point in time, we'll go ahead and continue. All right, everybody. We are back in business here. Hope you had a chance to stretch those legs a little bit. Maybe you needed to take a bathroom break or anything like that. All right, so we just completed looking at the different reports. Okay. So at the beginning of the session, we went a little bit over products. I want to go over the inventory itself. We recommend, again, if you're going to be using, when you upload your initial inventory, right, to use maybe the template if you want, or create it manually. But we don't recommend that whenever you're going to modify your inventory numbers, that you do it manually on here, because it's not registered anymore. Okay. There's a specific function on the system. Let me log back in this thing. There's a specific function on the system that does register your any changes that you make to the inventory. Right, give me 1 second while I bring my terminal back online. And again, it's by design, just to make sure that if you're making changes to the inventory, that it registers what kind of changes you make and the amount. Of course, it even registers who made the change, okay? Because you need to be logged in. So again, it's something that you do on the terminal itself. Let me bring this up here. Uh-oh, what happened? Okay, and bring it back. There we go. Let me zoom in. If you go to inventory here, okay, there's this inventory movement function. Okay, it's really, really useful. So what do you do on here? Well, you can find the items right on the menu that you want to go ahead and update. Okay, so for example, you say, oh, you know what? I need to update. What we got on here? Candy. I need to update Snickers bars. Beverages. I need to update the Pepsi. On the grocery side, I need to update the potato chips, and then maybe on the gift shop here, I need to update. I don't know. Let's say the house plants. Okay. What you do, if you see on the left-hand side of the screen, move this out of the way, you choose which item you want to update. Now you can update it either for increase or for decrease. So if you're doing maybe a visual inventory verification and you find that, hey, you're missing some stuff, this is where you would do it as well. So what you do is you choose each one of the items that you've pre-selected here. So for example, a house plant, and we're going to increase that. You can either use this pad here to increase, or you can use the plus and the minus buttons here. We're going to increase that by 5. But you know what? Wow, I'm finding that we currently don't have 30 potato chips on here. Okay, we actually have, well, actually, I'm going to add right now, because you have to do either your increases all at once or your decreases all at once. So here, I'm going to go and add just 5 more here. And then now Pepsi bottle, we're going to add just 1 more. And then Snickers bar, we're going to add 3 more. All right. You submit that, and then there's a report you're going to be able to pull. It's going to register all of those increases that you. Okay. You can also pull up the items by using your scanner. Okay. So you can just put it on here and then scan it, and you'll be able to pull it up as well on there. Okay. And that's just going to add to this list so you can go. So really, really useful feature on here, but important that again, you don't manually go into the product catalog screen, for example, on the store portal here, and try to manually modify your inventory because it's not going to register that change anywhere. That's why we built this feature into the actual POS. All right. All right. So that's really all the features and so forth, setting up that I wanted to talk about. Now I want to go into the actual sales screen to show you a little bit some of the functionalities you've got. Okay. So if you look across the top, you've got these different functions. Okay. If you wanted to, add an inventory or customer and so forth, I'm going to go to each one of these manually. All right. So first one is, yes, the inventory that's listed on. Go on here. You can do a query, find an item in case it's not listed on the menu. Okay. Or you can add a product right from this screen. Very easy to do. Now, there's certain features on the product or certain fields on the product that are not going to appear. Like you can't add your inventory numbers here. You can. But you can add the item itself, and then you can go back either here on the terminal or on the back end and modify that. Okay. Also here, I mentioned that you can add somebody very quickly, or you can search for a customer very easily at the point of sale. You're going to add somebody because maybe they're a veteran, they want to take advantage of the price level, veterans discount. All it requires is a first name. Once you input the first name, you're going to see that the asterisk for the last name goes away. Okay, so now it doesn't require your last. And like I said before, you can even take a photograph. Okay. And from right this screen, you can give them credit or not if you want to give them credit. Okay. And all the other information. You can also choose what type of order this is going to be. As I mentioned previously, even if it's not, we're not integrated to any type of a delivery service, you can identify an order that's going to be picked up, okay, phone number, and actually you can look for the customer here, and then you say testing guy, okay, you can search on that, okay. You'll have a phone there, or you can choose if it's going to be delivery, okay. If it's going to be takeout or dine-in, okay. Now, look, we don't normally recommend our POS system for. What happened here? We don't normally recommend our POS system for full takeout on here. Uh-oh. See, I don't know if you're seeing this on the screen. It looks a little weird. I'm gonna close this out and reconnect again. All right. Again, I don't know if it's just my screen or if it's actually like that on Zoom. Let me log back in. Make sure I've got everything coming good in here. Technology, don't you love it, huh? Sometimes it's great, sometimes it puts you in a bind. Okay, so we're back on here. Let me zoom back in so you can have a better view. All right, what I'm going to do here, just to show you, is I'm going to go ahead and choose my favorite customer here, testing guy. All right. And then when I place the order as delivery, it already pre-populates their address. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and continue with the sale for this. If you have anything in the shopping cart, let's say candy. All right, you just press the clear button. It's going to allow you to clear that shopping cart. Okay, I'm still logged in as the testing guy here. No, actually, it clears even the customer when you put this on here. If you are able to hold an order, so if somebody comes up to the cash register and they forgot their wallet, you can go ahead and hold an order if you wanted to. Okay, I don't have any held orders right now, but that's where they would appear. You can give a discount for the whole shopping cart if you'd like, or you can give a discount for an individual item. So let's suppose that somebody wants to get they want to buy 3 Reese's peanut butter cups, but you're going to give them a discount on the first one. What you would do is you choose the item, you slide it to the right, and choose what discount amount you want to give them for that item, say 50%, and then you add the additional items on. Okay, those items are not going to have this. But if you want to give them a discount for the overall purchase, then you choose here. It could do percentage. It could be, cash, whatever you'd like on it. Okay. And then if you're going to do a manual entry of an item that's not on your inventory, you choose a category entry. Again, you can choose what category you want that to be in. Okay. So let's say a gift shop. Put whatever product name you want. Last product. Put the price on here that you want. Okay. On the screen here, put whatever price you want on here. $2.99. If you remember, put the quantity on here, and then just put any note on here. So this item is not going to be added to the inventory. When you tap on Add Product, you remember we established the cash product with the entry, so it automatically will calculate it for the credit price product. Now, when you want to go back to your regular menu screen where you've got your items, just tap on that menu button that's on the top right here, and you'll go back in here. You got some additional functions here. Okay. For the time being, disregard this manual entry. We're going to delete this button because we already have it with a category. If you want to print an item, you can go ahead and print it out beforehand. Okay. You look at the last transaction, the current order. Okay. You can do a refund right on the spot. Okay. Open your cash drawer, or you want to choose the whole order to be tax exempt. It'll bring up this menu and you choose which tax you want to exempt. You want to do, both the sales tax, you submit, and then there's no tax being charged. Or you can lock the screen on here as well. Okay. Go back on here. Okay, when you save the order, then it's going to allow you to go ahead and print it. Okay. You go to advanced printer, you get more than one printer saved on here, you'll be able to choose that on here. Okay. All right, now, because I saved the order, took it off, so I can go back to search orders here. Okay. And I'll have the current order, which is this one. That will bring it back up. It's kind of a way to also hold the order, but it's easier when you just use to hold from somebody who's not registered in the system. Okay. Now I mentioned also that the system does support multiple tenders. Let's go to pay. All right. Okay. So we've got all of these options for payments. Okay. Let me show you for loyalty. When I choose loyalty, it actually shows you on the screen how many points the customer has and how many points they would need to spend for this purchase. Okay. If I choose account, it also shows me what their credit is, how much they owe, and how much available balance they have. Okay. So for example, for this purchase, I can go ahead and say, all right, I'm going to go ahead and do a combination. Do loyalty, I'll do only $1. See that? Okay. Now I'm going to do $2. Okay. And say credit card, I'm going to do the difference. Okay, so I'll go ahead and run it. It's credit. And card on the system here. And again, this is a demo. Sign it right on the screen. Remove it on here. Okay. I'll get the approval. Now I can choose whether I want to print or not, whether I want to email, whether I want to do both. Okay, if I choose email, because I am under this customer's profile, it will show up on here. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and say yes. But I can modify that address. Okay. All right, I'm going to show you a second transaction. you remember, I had mentioned that you can keep track of inventory based on attributes, right? That's where you would find that here. Notice that Reebok Exercise Tee, I did that. And it shows you on the main screen that's got 65 units on there. But when you tap on it, then you have the different sizes and it gives you the specific stock amount, inventory amount for each size. So you got small, medium, I've got 20, large, I've got 14, extra large, I've got 11. I'm gonna go ahead and choose extra large. All right, and extra large actually tacks on another $10 into the system. So the shirt's actually cost a little bit more because it's extra large. All right, so that's using again modifiers. And you could say that this is a subcategory, right? Because you got the exercise tee as the item. I mean, the category is gift shop. You could say that Reebok exercise tee would be a subcategory, and then the actual size would be the item itself, and keep track of inventory separate. Even have a separate barcode for it. Okay, so that's again how you would utilize your attributes. I also want to show you how you would utilize your modifiers, which are ingredients and things like that. Okay, and it's underserved food. Okay, I'll choose that, and we're going to go with a hot fudge sundae. So I created two groups of modifiers for the hot fudge sundae. Okay, I created the one that includes the toppings that it normally has, so you can withhold the topping. Okay, or actually I do want hot fudge. All right, I don't want cherry. And then additional toppings. And again, these toppings can either have a price or not have a price. So I'm going to add caramel and add nuts. Okay, and it adds them to the shopping cart. Now, if I have an additional printer and I have it set up so that the sundae is printed out there, this is the only item that's going to go to the printer. Okay. All right. I also want to show you how we handle restricted age products. So, for example, alcohol, I'll choose Budweiser 6-pack, and I would input the age on here. Now, if you have or if you're logged in as a specific customer and you already have their age on the system, like I say, this testing guy again, okay, where I have their age, and I pull up a restricted age product, it's already going to pre-populate their date of birth. You can modify that if you tap in that field and input a different birth date. We're in the process of integrating an ID scanner to the system, so this would be automated. Now, the nice thing about the ID scanner is that also is going to verify that the ID is real and not fake. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and add that. Now, once you've chosen a restricted age product, you can add additional products without a problem. So, for example, with cigarettes, all right, I'll go ahead and add one. When I go to pay, it's going to ask me, because I am signed up for the tobacco rebate or tobacco discount program known as Scan Data. It's going to ask me whether I want the customer to have a loyalty discount. You input whatever phone number just so it registers on the system. Okay. Okay. And you should see the discount on here. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and just make a cash payment, just to kind of do it overall here. And I'm not going to print. But if you remember, I mentioned that whenever you run a transaction, it automatically brings it up here. Okay, log me out. Let me go back into the store portal here. Give me 1 second while I pull it up. It's the micro-mart. I log in. And then because I am online, now I have the ability to go back in and look at the reports and look at that transaction in particular. So today we've run 2 transactions. The first one that showed us the split or multi-tender, right, payment method. And you can even look at the receipt here. Okay, you've got the multiple tenders here. Okay, how I paid, $4.04 on credit, $2 on the account, $1 in loyalty. Okay, And it gives you, of course, an updated balance for both the account credit and the loyalty. Okay. And then you can go to the other transaction. Same thing, look at the receipt. Okay. This one, and they should show you your discount. Now, normally the cash discount, you'll see it per item. Okay. And you'll see it here at the bottom. Right. And I wanted to show you, I apologize, on the other transaction because it was credit. I did have signature capture on there. I just wanted to show you that on there. So this is, and this looks like it's broken because it's PDF and it's formatted for, page. It's not continuous, but on the receipt itself, it would actually print the signature on there. Okay, then you have that on file. Okay. All right. So with that, really, kind of completed the training today. I don't see any questions or anything on the chat either. This would be a good time if you want to ask any questions. Go ahead and just tap on the Q&A icon that you have on your screen for Zoom. So I'll wait a couple of minutes, see if any questions come in. And if not, well, thank you again for being part of the training. And you can review this again. It's going to be on the YouTube channel, Sound Payments. Should be there probably by tomorrow or the day after. Like I said, no questions have come through. Um, Well, if you do have any questions, again, our email address, support@soundpayments.com. I'm more than glad to field those questions. All right. But at this point in time, since we don't have anything on here, anybody asking any questions, thank you again for being part of the session today. And well, hopefully you're going to have a lot of success using our Sound POS system. So thank you again.